Former Mr. Olympia Big Ramy decides he wants to take a political stance now. He put a picture of the Palestinian flag with some words underneath supporting Palestine. Now, the first thing I want to say is I know nothing about politics. I know the basics. I don't know what actually the inner workings of Israel and Palestine. I know there's been conflict in the Middle East forever. Since I'm a kid, like honestly, and from what I understand with Israel since 1947, but since I'm a kid, I could always remember things going on in the Middle East. So right away, I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to take any kind of political stance, but I am going to talk about what I think of Big Ramy for posting this. So why don't we just go see what he posted? All right, here is his posts. Palestinian flag, and here, I don't read this, I don't know this language, so I'm going to hit translation. And this is what he wrote. Those who were told that people have gathered for you, fear them, and they increased their faith, and said, Allah is sufficient for us, and he is the best disposer of affairs. Allah is sufficient for us. He will guide your steps and make your feet firm. Men of Palestine, the fighting father, we consider you men God chose to support his religion and raise his flag. And we ask God not to deprive us of the reward of many sins. Men of Palestine, glory. Okay. Now, once again, I am not a political show. I am not going to get into political detail because I don't know much. But here's what I will say. Looks like virtue signaling to me, and I'll tell you why. It is so funny how for the many, many years that Big Ramy was chasing the title of Mr. Olympia, he never took any political stance. It is so funny that when he was Mr. Olympia for 2 years and then defended his Mr. Olympia last year, it is so funny how he didn't take any political stance whatsoever. Not one iota, never, not a peep, nothing. But now that his bodybuilding career is pretty much over, I know he's going to make everybody's going to make a comeback. But he reached the mountaintop, Mr. Olympia twice. That could never be taken away from him. Made all his money. Has nothing to lose. Now he wants to take a political stance. Well, I don't respect that. I don't admire it. And this is why I say it's virtue signaling. Because if you have a platform this big, that's what people are going to take it as when you decide to take this stance when you have nothing to lose anymore. It just looks like it looks weak. I'm going to tell you that it looks weak. So I'm going to use another athlete who took a stance his entire career and lost everything as an example. And if you young people out there that are watching this don't know, or people in other countries that don't know, go look up who Muhammad Ali was. Okay? Because he lost everything for a stance that he took, and he didn't stop taking that stance. He didn't backtrack. So Muhammad Ali was the former heavyweight champion of the world boxing champion. I know everybody thinks fighting now is UFC, but back then it was boxing. And he became Muslim before he was the heavyweight champion. He was, I believe it was the Nation of Islam. Yes, he was Muslim. And then he was the heavyweight champion, and he was the greatest in his sport, just like Big Ramy was for 2 years. He was the greatest in his sport. He was the greatest fighter. But while he was champion, he was supposed to be drafted into the military during Vietnam. And he said, I'm not going. He said, I'm not going, and I don't care what you do to me. I don't approve this war. It's against my religion, and I don't care. And then he had this famous line, which I obviously can't say the entire line, but he said, no Vietnamese ever called me the N-word. And basically his idea was, why should I go and fight for my country who has treated Black people so poorly? And this was during the 1960s, during the civil rights issues and so on and so forth. And he was right. Back then he was right. It was the civil rights issues were the laws that were put into place to help, minorities and women and so on and so forth. So it's a perfect timing, man. It was just the man for that time. So he was facing jail time, and he had a fight in court, and he lost his title, and he was stripped of his boxing license for 3 years. and he couldn't make any money. Any endorsements he had dropped him. He lost everything. And you know what he did during that 3 years where he couldn't make any money, where he couldn't fight? He kept protesting against the Vietnam War. And he kept being a political activist for what he believed in. He didn't stop. He didn't come back. He didn't stop. He didn't take it back and go, oh, let me keep quiet. I really want to get back into boxing and make a living. No. He kept saying it. And you know what happened after 3 years? Finally, he won. And they finally gave him his license back. Meanwhile, he was in the red. He lost everything. And then he finally had to regain the title, but this time from tougher opponents. Well, that's not what you did, Big Ramy. You decided, I am going to take a political stance when the coast is clear, when they can't take away my money or my Mr. Olympia titles or a reason to not defend it, right? You did it at your leisure, which is just, honestly, it's very weak. It's very weak. Now, if you really want to be an activist, let's see. Go and protest. You're already in the Middle East. Go fight for Palestine. Go do what you got to do. Because if you're just going to put an Instagram post with a few words from a religious text, it means nothing. You're virtual signaling. That's all it is. But prove me wrong. Keep protesting. Keep not, because you're going to lose a lot of followers on Instagram. If you go back and look at those comments, there's a lot of people that says unsubscribe with the Israeli flag, unsubscribed. But you have 5 million subscribers, so you don't care. This is what I'm telling you, man. You did it when the coast was clear. Nobody respects that. Nobody admires that. When you look at a great man like Ali, when he did it, people didn't respect him because of the stance he took. They respect him because he stayed with that stance he took, lost everything, and kept on protesting. And then even the people that didn't believe in what he believed in respected him for it. Well, you're just the opposite. Sorry, Big Ramy. That is my opinion on what you did. So, hey, we'll see what happens. So, Serious and Silly in this bodybuilding, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Peace.